Good evening, everyone. We will take roll call.
Everyone's present.
Having a quorum, we'll call the Wabash State School Board meeting for Monday, September 18th, 2023 to order. Will everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We begin each Wabash City School Board meeting by reading the Wabash City Schools mission. Wabash City Schools provides a relevant and rigorous education founded upon relationships to ensure each student is college and career ready for success in a global community. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Do we have any recognitions?
Not this evening.
No recognitions. We do have a couple of revisions to the agenda. Item E3, which is approve the following changes to the transportation handbook. Remove the 13th bullet point on page 10 regarding job expectations and responsibilities, which states take bus for regular maintenance work, including oil changes and brake and kingpin inspections. Diesel buses are to be serviced at 6,000 to 10,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. Gasoline buses are to be serviced at 3,000 to 5,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. And then item H1F, that is approve the following pay increases for bus drivers retroactive to the first day of school, and Adrian Pelfrey, increase of $9.22 per day. Accept a motion on the revisions to the agenda.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor of approving the revisions indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Revisions are made. And at this point, would anyone in the audience like to comment on any of the agenda items tonight? All right. Moving on, we have the consent agenda. We have minutes of the September 5th, 2023 meeting, claims, donations, financials with revenue and expense update. To accept a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion.
Looking at our August revenue and expenses, our revenue was higher than both what we had projected and our August of 2022 revenue. Our expenses were a little bit lower than we had a year ago, but they were higher than projected, which I will explain that. Our payroll expenses were significantly lower than a year ago in what we had projected. So a year ago in August, we had a net loss of almost $200,000. We were projected to have a net loss this year of about $110,000, and we ended up much better than last year in what we had projected with a net loss of $26,522. However, we did receive our June invoice for Heartland Career Center. We did not get that until late July. And so it did not get paid until August. So we made a double payment to Heartland for the month of August. So I pulled up our June numbers and I added that into the expenses and then took it out of this month. So you can see, had we got that during the correct month, we still would have had a net income in June, and that would have made it where we would have had a net income for August. So was excited to see those. Also wanted to share our key fund balances. We're looking at our education fund, our operations fund, and our rainy day fund. So looking at where we are at the end of August for 2023 compared to where we were a year ago at that same time, you can see the education fund. It's a little bit healthier than what it had been. Operations, we've knocked out quite a bit of that. Remember, we did get the tax anticipation warrant, so that will kind of level itself out as we move through the rest of this year. But I do want to start sharing these each month just so we can kind of see the headway we're making on these three key funds.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I appreciate the information and especially the explanation on the two payments to Heartland and how that affected the finances in August. Any other discussion?
Did Darcy say why they got?
I think it's just being in the summer, yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next regular scheduled board meeting will be Monday, October 2nd, 2023 at Wabash City Hall, 202 South Wabash Street, Wabash, Indiana at 6 p.m. We have a few items of communications. There's no old business. New business, board will be presented with the 2023 iRead 3 data presentation.
Okay. So this year, we are going to look at both our third grade and we're also going to share second grade iRead. We were able to opt into a pilot for this, and so we'll share a little bit about that. Let's see, do I know how to? This is just kind of a refresher. iRead, it is designed to measure foundational reading skills based on our Indiana academic standards through grade 3. All grade 3 students enrolled in an accredited Indiana school must participate in it and attain a passing score. It's administered in both the spring and then we also administer it in the summer. Students can receive what's called a good cause exemption, and to qualify for that, it's decided, a committee decides students that are English learners, students with disabilities, and students who have already been retained twice are eligible. Man, I should have made this a little bit bigger. OJ's results, and I did put the last 3 years on there. Really, though, you can't look at 1 year from the next because you are looking at different students, but just to show where we've been. So for this year, the 2023 results, we had 98 students that tested in the spring, and 69 of them passed. So we had a pass rate of 70.4. The students that did not pass received intervention, and then they were retested in the spring. We had quite a few that came to summer school. We had 18 that did retest in the summer, and 12 of those students passed. So when you combine all of our scores together, and I will say Mrs. Philippi and I worked on this quite some time, our data shows that we had 81 that passed out of the 98, and that's what is in the testing software. But when you go to what the IDOE sends out, they say we had 80 of 99. So we're not sure what happened, where that extra kid is, but we use the data that's in the testing software. So when we had 81 out of 98, we had an 82.7% pass rate. 7 of our students that did not pass qualified for the good cause exemption. So if we pulled them out, we would be at an 89% pass rate. We are going to look at the 82.7 as that's our pass rate. When you look at the state averages, public schools have an 81% pass rate. So we are performing above state average for public schools. Non-public schools have a 92.8. So the total state average is 81.9. So we are performing above state average on our iRead pass rates.
What do we do with the 10 kids that didn't pass? I mean, if I look at 7 that got the good cause exemption and 81 passed, that's 88 out of 98. So what happens to those other 10 kids?
They continue to receive appropriate interventions throughout their 4th grade year, and they will retest. We have students that are retesting even in the middle school, so they continue to retest until they pass.
Going back to I think a couple slides before where you explained what the state says, everybody has to pass, and there's different exemptions, and one of them was they take the test twice, and if they
They've
don't,
been retained twice.
They've been retained
so,
twice.
Yes, if we held them back, most schools still move their students on to the next grade level, and through instruction, we provide them the appropriate at grade level.
Okay, thank you.
This year, we did opt into the grade 2 pilot. So these students are taking the iRead 3, just like they would if they were 3rd graders. We had 84 second graders that tested, and 40 of them passed. So we had a 48% pass rate, and the state average was 45%. The nice thing about these students taking this at second grade, they do not have to take it next year. So they've already passed, that counts. And it tells us, as our students are moving into third grade, the 44 students that we know we really need to be intentional about the interventions that we're giving to them to get them to be able to pass.
That's the same test as the third grade took?
Yep,
So they know what they need to work on.
right. So moving forward, we continue to utilize our NWEA data to determine students in need of remediation. I know that OJ is doing WIN groups. They do language arts and they do math. We use Roxy reading curriculum, which aligns with the science of reading to ensure that students are receiving appropriate reading instruction. We also utilize our title teachers to provide interventions in reading, and looking down the road, language arts textbook adoption will happen in 24-25. So that's another thing that we look at to help really bolster our reading instruction.
All right, any questions for Dr. Sibley on the presentation?
The iRead results were given out to the parents last school year, correct?
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the board will be presented with the Wabash City Schools 2024 annual budget.
Okay. So this is just going to be an overview. We're going to start with our projected revenue. Debt service, our projected revenue is $2,206,650. That all comes from property tax. Our education fund, our projected revenue is $12,815,960. That is based on an enrollment of 1402. We have to turn in, I think it's back in May that we did that. Okay. What we think our enrollment is going to be for this year. So we just took the enrollment that we had at that time. That's what we projected. Our current enrollment is at 1416. So depending, the count day is October 2nd. On that day, they will look at what our enrollment is, and this budget could get adjusted depending on where we end. Operations, the revenue was $1,990,359. That all comes from property tax. We have miscellaneous revenue, which is some various local income taxes, local taxes, and then our ed to operation transfer. The thing that we have to remember is that we will lose, we've estimated potentially $1 million in tax caps. So our debt service, our advertised budget is $2,206,650. That is an advertised tax rate of 0.814. And I pulled up last year's just to kind of show a comparison. Last year, our certified budget was $2,076,469 with a tax rate of about 0.8812. I know that when the DLGF, they get our information and they work our budget, we've advertised 0.8145, but it doesn't mean that that's what it will be. It could fluctuate a little bit. For our education fund, we have an advertised budget of $10,893,255. 15% of our total expenses can be transferred, so that's $1,922,394. So our total expenses, we have budgeted $12,815,649 compared to last year's certified budget of $11,545,622. This does not have a tax rate because it's not funded through taxes. And then our operations fund, we have an advertised budget of $3,284,191. So the tax rate for that will be 0.7347. Last year's certified budget was $2,993,165 with a certified tax rate of 0.7580. So again, once DLGF gets all of this and goes through and works it, those tax rates could change just a little bit. The timeline, we have our public hearing at the city council meeting on September 25th, and then we are set to have city council adopt our budget on October 23rd.
Last year's tax rate was over $1.60, so this year will be closer to $1.50. So maybe someone in the public will thank you for bringing the tax rate down. Who knows? But it will be almost 10 cents lower than it was last year.
Sure.
And that's partly because the AV of our school corporation went up. So.
Any other discussion? I know a lot of work's gone into this, so thank
Yes,
you
yes.
for all the work that's been put into this in preparation. All right, next on the agenda, we'll hold the following hearings for the 2024 bus replacement plan and the 2024 CPF plan.
So you need to open it.
Motion.
Yeah, I need to have a motion to open the hearings for the bus replacement and so discussion.
So the bus replacement plan only makes us go out 5 years now. You know, a few years back we did 10. So, but now it only shows 5. So you'll see a couple buses, which that's coming in the next item is to declare them surplus. We didn't even put a place in there for them to be replaced because we'll get rid of them. So we'll be able to get rid of a couple buses. And then the rest, the deal with the state is you can have a bus that's up to 12 years old, gets inspected once a year. Anything over 12, you can still have it. They just have to be inspected twice a year. And so we do have some buses that are older than 12 that we do get a second inspection on. Try not to, buy more than 1 or 2 buses during the same year. So sometimes you have to push one down the road, but and we've pushed a few down the road here recently. But those buses now are ready to be surplused out. And so that's why they're not being replaced. So when you look at that chart, you see that there's a couple that there's no replacement time. That's because we're going to declare them surplus.
Does that include the minibuses?
It does.
Okay.
Yes, those mini buses are on that list also. Yeah. When you look at the chart that can you guys?
I don't see a
But
chart.
yeah.
Hearings. Yeah.
Can you not put the chart
No.
on
I
there?
don't see a chart on here.
So the charts are on the school website because they had to be, but I
Oh.
thought Kenny had put them there too. There's a chart that has all our buses on it, and if there's an A next to it, that's an activity bus, and if there's a C next to it, that's our big bus.
Yeah.
And if it's a wheelchair bus, it is designated as a wheelchair bus.
Okay.
So yeah, every bus, including activity buses, are on that plan.
Good. Because I know they're getting more and more miles on them now that we're trying to
Oh,
use
yeah.
them
Yeah.
more frequently.
But they fall under the same thing, that
Okay.
12 years and they're supposed to go too, yeah.
I found it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was on the website, easy to find.
Yeah,
By the way, the website improvements are so helpful.
excellent. There it is. So when you see on that chart, like that there's no replacement for that top bus, it's because we're going to declare it surplus, right?
Okay.
And then you can see we only go out 5 years, but anything that is an A is an activity bus. And you can see the ones that we own and then the ones that are still on the lease.
Yeah.
Once the lease is up, then we own them. Because we lease them to own. So
What's the typical length of time that we keep a bus?
it's usually that 12 years.
12 years?
Yeah. And there, like I said, there's a few that we've kept longer than that, but we usually try to keep them that 12 years and then we trade them in.
All right, any other discussion on the bus replacement plan?
At one point, we were talking about trying to get like a grant or something. It was a while ago, I think 6 months ago at this point.
Yes.
Does that,
When we're ready to purchase another bus, we will look at that again.
okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
I
Which
just-
we're not purchasing any this year.
That's fine. I was just, didn't know if that was still in the works or if that's on hold until the time is right. Cool, thanks.
Any other discussion on the bus replacement? If not, I would accept a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the hearing for the bus replacement is closed. Now I would accept a motion to open the hearing for the CPF.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
Can we get that one? So the CPF one, this doesn't mean that we're going to do these things. They're asking us that anything that we may do in the next 3 years that would be considered capital projects that we put on here. So the two things that didn't happen last summer with the restrooms and the press box are on there. And then the things that we consider deferred maintenance, like roofs, carpet replacement, flooring replacement, asphalt work, those things are on here also, HVAC work. And so, again, this is not something that is set in stone. This is just a heads up to the state that these are things we may do in the next 3 years.
Sure.
And so we took the things straight off of our carpet and roof and asphalt replacement plan and how much is in there to get those numbers. The HVAC is an estimate we got a year and a half ago from MCOR, how much it would cost to replace our boilers and the univents.
I assume that's 2.5 million.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to steal
So that's like, wow.
Let's go for it.
And then the restrooms and the press box, that is a complete guess, right?
Yeah.
It's probably a little less than that. I think the restrooms last time they told us was about 300,000. That would have been 2 summers ago by the time we get to this summer. And then the softball and press box building was about the same. So we don't want anybody to say that we tried to lowball them. So those are definitely highball numbers. And again, those are things we don't have to do. They're just things that we've all talked about. And so we put them on this plan.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? If not, I would accept a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
The hearing is closed. Thank you. All right. Next up is item D, approve recommendation to declare bus number 6 and bus number 23 as surplus and place them for sale.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
So these are buses that are extras now. We still have a sub bus even once we get rid of these. And so we'll just make an announcement online and probably in one of the papers that we have them for sale, see if anybody's interested. Last time we did this, we sold both buses for $1,500 to $2,000 each. We're not gonna get a lot for them.
Mhm.
But it's something, and we don't need to keep them on our insurance and keep them on the ground. So
And we'll save because we're not replacing too.
yes,
So-
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the recommendation indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item E, approve the following changes to the transportation handbook. Remove the last bullet point on page 10 regarding job expectations and responsibilities, stating that bus drivers were responsible for securing sub-drivers when needed. Change wording on page 11 under substitute bus operators to read the transportation department will secure sub-drivers when needed. And number 3, remove the 13th bullet point on page 10 regarding job expectations and responsibilities, which states take bus for regular maintenance work, including oil changes and brake and kingpin inspections. Diesel buses are to be serviced at 6,000 to 10,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. Gasoline buses are to be serviced at 3,000 to 5,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. Accept a motion.
So moved.
Motion and second, discussion.
The first two things, Kindy has taken over, finding them subs so they don't have to do it themselves. The third thing is really old because that's what we used to do before we had our own mechanic. The drivers were in charge of taking the buses to Denny's where they got serviced. They don't have to do that anymore. Jeff takes it right out of the lot and brings it into the garage and takes care of it. So those things are all being taken care of either by Kindy or by Mr. Wilson. So.
I think it makes a lot of sense with the changing and who gets the sub. So I think that's a good move. And the last one makes sense too. If we're not, if we have somebody servicing it. So anyway, all those in favor of approving the changes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item F, approve the following transfers for certified staff. Matt Zickafus as Wabash High School business teacher to Wabash Middle School, Wabash High School PE teacher effective October 9th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
Mr. Sickafus helped out last year in the middle school by teaching one period of fifth grade PE. He has decided that he'd like to transfer to this position full-time. He's already applied for an emergency permit, and all he'll need to do is take the PE test to get that added to his license. We're excited for him to move into this position and wish him good luck. We will now begin looking for his replacement at the high school. I know Mr. Blossom has already begun looking. And he's looking at teacher schedules and may change some things up depending on who we are able to hire. He's got some time because the transfer isn't going to take place until second 9 weeks.
All those in favor of approving the transfer indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item G, approve the following resignations from classified staff. Tiffany Wagner as cafeteria employee effective September 7th, 2023. And Kaylee Wagner as cafeteria employee effective September 7th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, discussion.
We'd like to thank these ladies for their service to Wabash City Schools.
All those in favor of approving the resignations indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item H, approve the following pay increases for bus drivers retroactive to the first day of school. Increased pay for the following drivers based on time driven. Christina Sellers, increase of $4.99 per day. Kurt Brackenhammer, increase of $34.37 per day. Alan Tribbett, increase of $19.87 per day. Samantha Scheidler, increase of $24.38 per day. Sandy Widener, increase of $9.22 per day. Adrian Pelfrey, increase of $9.22 per day. Pay differential for driving a special education bus of $25 per day for the following drivers: Angie Klein, Jessica Wilkinson, and Shelley Ford. Accept a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
So when we went into this year, the plan was to try to make all of our routes pretty close to equal in time. Unfortunately, our transportation software that we have did not allow for us to do that. There is an upgraded version that we plan to get for next year. So in the meantime, what we did, we went through, because we do have a few drivers that are working significantly longer than the 3 hours and 20 minutes that was kind of our target. So we are able to pull from the GPS system on the buses a report showing their time that they drove. So we looked at a snapshot of a week. And it was after, it was well into the year, so it wasn't that first week when they're still learning their routes. The 5 drivers that we listed above are working over that minimum time. And so for each minute over, they're compensated 48 cents per minute. And the pay increase will be retroactive to the first day of school. We do have 2 new buses that do not have the GPS system on there. So Mr. Wilson, our mechanic, is working to get those installed. And once we have those, we will do the same thing with those 2 drivers, pull a snapshot and determine if their pay should be increased. We're also increasing the daily rate for our special education drivers. These drivers are working with medically fragile students as well as students with increased behaviors. We've asked around other districts. Every district has a different rate for their special ed drivers compared to the gen ed. Some of them were significantly more. So we felt like the $25 was an adequate amount that we could do right now.
That's a permanent for the special ed going forward. I know we had that.
Yes.
That one stipend that I don't think we were all aware of that we, earlier this year for the
County
county
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure this is a permanent.
That will be a permanent addition to special ed drivers route pay, yeah.
Does that need to be in updated policy anywhere or?
We will update it in our handbook that gets
will have
approved.
in December.
Yeah.
Make sure we're covering it for future reference,
Yeah.
not conversation.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of approving the increases indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And I don't know if this is a good time to talk about our sub driver, where we're at with that. First, I would just want to say thanks to our families for being patient with us. We have 2 sub drivers, but one of them is out for a short while. So we technically have 1 sub bus driver. And so on days when we have more than 1 person out, we've had to be very creative. We have some drivers that are willing to run their regular route after, or then run another route. So that has helped out. We have everything covered for this week. This week was one that was going to be tough for us. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, everything is covered. Thursday and Friday, we have a route on each day that we have somebody that can drive it in the afternoon, but we don't have anybody to get them to school. So we are still working on that. We are hopeful that we have someone that we think might be able to. And if that's the case, then we'll make it through this week. We did with some of the stuff we've put out. We have a potential of 4 or 5 leads on sub drivers. One of them would just need to get the air brake endorsement, and then the others would need to go through, get their CDL permit, and then go through our training. So that's not something that's going to happen, in a week. But hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
Item I, approve the hiring the following classified staff. Lisa Barnes as part-time cafeteria employee at OJ Neighbors effective September 19th, 2023, pending background check. Aaron Bowman as part-time cafeteria employee at Wabash Middle School effective September 19th, 2023, pending background check. Catherine Pianki as part-time cafeteria employee at Wabash Middle School effective September 25th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion.
I know Melanie's running on fumes when it comes to employees, so we're thrilled to have these ladies join our food service team and would like to welcome them to Wabash City Schools.
All those in favor of approving the hiring indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Items from superintendent.
I want to congratulate our senior class. They won the Homecoming Spirit Week. We had a great turnout for the parade and the football game. Congratulations to Natalie Adams and Grant Ford, Homecoming Queen and King. Also, shout out to OJ. Mrs. Philippi is here. You guys had a great float, and I enjoyed seeing it the next day in the Founders Fest parade. Would like to congratulate our girls golf team. They placed 3rd at sectional, which moves them on to regional this week at Noble Hawk. So good luck to them. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Jeff Galley. He's the chairman for our Hall of Distinction. This event was held on Saturday afternoon and it was spectacular. I thoroughly enjoyed learning about the lives and accomplishments of our 5 inductees. And after I saw that, I told a couple people we need to make sure that maybe our juniors and seniors get to see that. So is there a way that we could do that during the day? Just because I think it's really a really neat thing for them to see some of the cool things that their former Apaches have accomplished. So great job to Mr. Galley.
Any questions for Dr. Sibley? Not. Items from Chief Business Officer, Mr. Stone.
I too just want to thank Mr. Galley. I'm on the committee for the Hall of Distinction. I have been since it started. And, we took a 4-year break with COVID and then with the change in leadership and to be able to get it back. And I just think he did a great job. And during that time, we also had the person who used to be the chair resign. And so when Dr. Sibley and I decided to ask Jeff, I told her on Saturday, well, we made a great decision. Because Jeff did a great job, and but the whole ceremony was nice. We had our high school choir was there and sang a couple songs, and they had some National Honor Society kids come up and accept for people who've been dead for 130 years.
Yeah.
And so, but it was very nice. Jeff did a great job. It's nice that we got it back and going again, and it was nice. We had one person there who was living, and she had a lot of family there and some classmates, so that was nice. And then we had another member whose family came and accepted for him. So it was just nice to get it going again, and Jeff did a great job. So kudos to him.
Any questions for Mr. Stone? Not, items from administrators?
As much as I want to take some credit for that float, I did zero. Getting it ready, I wrote on it that Sarah Emmer, Brittany Jernigan, Stacy Fry, Cassie Grove, Kristen Manner, and Shannon Strickler, they all made it possible, and some of them showed up even on Saturday to write it again. So they did an excellent job, and I just threw candy.
Also important.
Definitely, yeah.
Items from visitors. All right, items from board members.
I just wanted to say that IRE data was awesome to see. So congratulations to you and to your teachers and to those kiddos, because I know it's hard. That was really it.
Stephen?
I wanted to mention OJ's flow. I had it on here long before they mentioned anything, but also the band was in the parade on Saturday as well. So it was nice to see. And amongst all the organizations in general, a lot of Apache faces throughout the different community organizations. And then girls golf. Congratulations, that's exciting. It's been quite the build up of that program. So that's exciting. And then I know that some of the Spanish exchange students got to participate in the Waypoint fundraiser over the weekend, so it was nice to see some of those exchange students get acclimated to the United States kickball. So,
Oh, yeah.
but and then Hall of Distinction, like you guys said, just to reiterate, Jeff is awesome at it, and it's always the way we do it is second to none. I've just seen several different schools how they do it, and yeah, we put our hearts up against anybody. So thank you to Jeff, and thank you to the committee that takes care of that. That's all I got.
All right, Rhonda?
Library board update. Polly moved into the high school librarian position starting today. So the library moved Laura Bootler up to, she's our interim youth services director until she completes a couple courses. So we're excited. The library's excited for Laura. And yeah, the building is coming along nicely. I don't know if anybody's driven by it, but it's really coming along, and yeah, so be done in probably a year.
Jason?
Cheerleaders also had a float, and so we had, and just as a caveat, like carry on to that conversation, we have two girls from Spain that have been with us for the last 3 years, and the cheerleading team and our soccer team have taken them both in from the start, and it's been amazing. The one girl has never cheered in her life, and she's like, I want to try this. And so we just got a hold of Mrs. Long, and she's like, yep, let's do it. And so she's been out there cheering for most of the home
For the
games.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. It's been incredible for her. It's almost like a dream, I think, for her. Like it's because that's the American dream, to be a girl
Yeah, part of the
cheerleading, right?
experience,
It's a
yeah.
cool experience. So the other one's been on the soccer team, and Mrs. Wright was very gracious in having her come out and train. Not been able to play, but at least train and enjoy the practicing and just the camaraderie. And her ambassador is actually Logan. So it's been very cool. I think they're like friends for life now. Like that's how it's been. And so I just, if you haven't considered, and this is not just you guys, but like just anyone that's maybe listening, I hope, like consider 3 weeks of your life, 2 weeks of your life. It's worth it. It's not that inconvenience. It's fun. If you have younger kids, they usually enjoy it. My kids have loved it, and they're gonna have a real hard time saying goodbye to these girls, and so I am too. So that's my 2 cents for today.
That's what I was going to talk about as well as the Spanish students. Friday, they head home, so their 3 weeks is up. So thank you to all the families that stepped up and hosted. I know that we had to twist some arms, I think, there at the end to get a few more. But we do have 2 groups coming later this year, one from New Zealand and another one from Argentina. So there will be opportunities for folks, and as Jason said, it is a really good experience. So like to thank everybody, wish the kids well, and anybody that's maybe been on the fence, it's well worth it. So with that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Probably have to learn that.